today for you. The topic is empowering your workflows with the approval kit. And this is presented by Jeevarajan Kumar. So Jeevarajan is an MVP, he's a solution architect. He is coming to us from Auckland, New Zealand. So that's a very, very far away. And he'll showcase and demonstrate the approval kit. And I'm looking forward to this. Jeevarajan, all yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mihir. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks, Aaron, Arun, and Eric for the opportunity. Let me quickly share my screen and let me know once you guys are able to see it.
Yes, I can see
okay. Thank you. Yeah, so today I welcome everyone for the New York City BizApps user group, and today I'm gonna just walk you through on the new approvals kit that was released last December as a public preview by the Microsoft PowerCat team. So PowerCat team is basically a customer advisory team from Power Platform who is a part of the Microsoft engineering team. So if you are using COE toolkit and it's also from them. And you'll see famous community stars who are part of Microsoft now and other experts from Microsoft like Scott and Eliza, and they're all part of the PowerCat team now. And this particular toolkit is also from them. And so what I'll just go into details about this shortly. And before that, I'll just give a quick introduction about myself. And myself, Jiva. I know it's too hard to pronounce my full name, so I always go with the short name, which is Jiva. And I'm a solution architect based out of Auckland. So I have overall like 12 plus years of experience in predominantly in customer engagement, is CRM, and then Power Platform. And then I'm also a Microsoft MVP since last 2019. It's like fifth year in the program now. And I do organize Auckland user group and Singapore user group, and also a user group in India. And apart from that, I also speak in some of the forums, Microsoft events, and also user groups like this. And I do have some blogs, but I'm not been actually doing that. Wish I will be able to do it from now on. And that's the plan for this coming year. And without further ado, so why we need the approvals kit? So before that, before we get into approvals kit, we have to understand the approvals connector, which most of you have already been using that approvals connector. As per Microsoft, even the 90% of their largest customers are already using approval connectors. It's pretty much a standard stuff. There's most of the business processes will have approvals as part of that. And like approvals connector has been used as part of that for simple approvals. But where it gets complex is when the approvals really gets when you want to build more complex approvals like multi-level approval, and then if you want to check the approvers work hours, out of office hours, and which is basically delegation, and then other those kind of stuffs, it gets more complex where we have been doing custom implementation to achieve this kind of stuff, like either we extend the Power Automate and then we build our own Power Automate steps with custom connectors and sometimes, and also supported Dataverse tables or SharePoint, to basically hold those values intermittently and then work on that. So that's been the case, since the Power Approvals Kit has been released. So now with the Approvals Kit, so what we have is we have an add-on or an additional capability that can be extended, that can be used as part of Power Automate for the complex approval scenarios. And so what does that come with when you basically import the approvals kit? Is basically approvals kit comes along with few components that we should be aware that there are a few Power Automates that is being used by the connector internally, and then model-driven app to nicely manage the approvals and where to design the approval and where to manage. That also comes with part of the solution. And then it also comes with a custom connector, which we require setup. So later part of the session, I'll walk through on how do we set up this. But it's just this idea, basically you have to understand that when we import or when we install this from the app source, there are going to be a bunch of components that gets imported along with that. I'll show them anyways, in a while. And so again, why approvals kit, and this is what I was talking about earlier. So if you have just approvals connector, the standard connector, which is just pointer here, which is this one. So the approvals connector standard one, you cannot have an approval history. So you have to maintain or override the current approval. So you can't maintain a history. Recently, the Power Automate, very recently, we have the history feature being enabled, and which is pretty much the approvals kit already has it. And then multi-stage approval, you have to build your custom implementation, but again, approvals kit has it as a out of the box. Dedicated approvals to check the users out of office, work hours, holidays, and all those things. Again, you have to integrate, and then you have to do something on that. But our approvals kit does that. There is a caveat around that. I'll come to that when I discuss about that feature. And yes, out of office, and then work days, holidays, consideration, all those things. And the out of the box connector is a standard connector, but the approvals kit is a premium connector because it uses Dataverse. You need a premium license to you can use that. You can't just use the free license. And so this example today that we're going to see, which is pretty much available in the Microsoft Learn as well, the same thing that I'm going to show you now. And I'll also share the links later in the chat, which you can refer. So the standard example is, like you can see like common places where we use approvals or like a document approval process, like your invoicing process, your sales process, your work order process, or it can be in a personal approval process like an expense process, expense approvals, vacations, travel expenses as such. I don't know, like you can also have a subset of an approval component with a larger enterprise solution. So these are all common approval scenarios where day-to-day in our implementation, in our projects, we use approvals. So if the example that we're going to see is, let's consider three personas today. So one is Gibson, and he basically Gibson has a Power Platform administrator, IT manager, and pro developer. So where he manages the environment and the solution as such. And Charlotte is an approvals administrator who is exclusively, she focuses on working with the business users and then, like setting up that approvals. She's a super user. And I don't know, let's imagine that way. And then we have Rebecca, who is going to be from the sales team, or who's going to basically approve, a sales manager who's going to approve or reject it. Okay, so these are three personas we're going to talk about today and how we see, but I don't have the exact name in my demo. I should have updated this with the actual name, but pretty much similar. I have three people to basically do that. And in fact, I have one more to cover the delegate as well. Okay, so, and the user journey that we're going to see today is basically Gibson, who is administrator. You can see that he will be able to set up the business kit, approvals kit, and then once he does that, Charlotte, who is the approvals administrator supervisor, should be able to configure the approvals by herself. She doesn't need any pro dev or any other skill set to do that, because the good thing and an important thing that I forgot to mention is that the approvals kit is a low-code platform. So it is going to look similar to your Power Automate canvas. So we're going to have a very similar interface to build the approvals kit as well. And then once we have the approvals kit created, either Gibson or Charlotte herself can basically use that in the Power Automate. So approvals kit doesn't work alone by itself. It is end of the day, it's a connector. It should be added as a step in the Power Automate to use that. And then finally, our business user can approve it and reject it, and Charlotte can improvise it. So that's the like sample scenario that we're gonna see shortly. And yeah, this is the I also have a sample app that I got from the App in a Day, which is a Contessa coffee approval app. Again, the link for that approval and app download app and everything is available in the Microsoft Docs, which I'm going to share at the end of the session. So you feel free to try it out and then play with it and then pass the feedback, because individual organization will have their own complex and then feedbacks on the approvals, and it's good to try it out and pass the feedback to the team. So the sample today we're going to see is we will have a Contessa Coffee machine, a Canvas app, And based on the order, if order is less than 300, we just do one approval, maybe self-approval. If its order is more than 400, we'll basically delegate it to the manager or somebody else. And based on that person who needs to approve, that person work hours or office hours will be checked by the system. And if they're not available that day, it gets to the delegated approval. So this is what we're going to see precisely. Okay. And if there's any question, just please let me know or drop it in the chat, and I'll be able to answer it at the end of the session. That's all. No more slides. We're going to see the demo. Let me just bring my demo environment. Okay, so this is what I got. So what I'll do is I'll first show the demo, the use case, what we just saw in the PowerPoint, and then I will go into the back end of how do we configure the Power Automate approvals kit, and then how it is the data are stored behind the scene, and finally I'll show the setup, how the setup to be done to build the approvals kit, and at the end I'll also talk about a manager. I would say rather than like if you want to run a huge workshop for the approval kit, how you can do that as well. So Power BI team has built a nice resources against that. So to start with that, so let's imagine in our business scenario where we sell nice coffee machines from Contoso, and we want to basically compare. This is how the app works. So compare it and then place an order. So if the order is within 400, what I have done is there is just one approval. So that approval just goes to admin at CRM, which is pretty much the same user who is logged in. And if approval is more than 400, the first level still goes to the same approval, but second level it goes to the manager. So that's what we're going to see now. So to save time, what I'll do is I just start with the above 401. So I'm just add any comments, and then I'm just going to submit this request, and that's been submitted. And what it does is now, so the first level of approval is going to be just by myself. I just used the same user, and second level of approval is going to be someone else. So I'll show that. So let me wait for the approval. It's going to take a while to come to the either Outlook, or you can use it from the Power Automate approvals or Teams, whichever is comfortable for the approval. So let me give it time, give it a while for the email to come through. And meanwhile, what I'll do is I'll just bring up the model-driven app. Come on. I hate this. Oh, okay. Yeah. So meanwhile, I was waiting for the email. What I'll do is this is the model-driven app that basically comes along with the Power Apps approval kit solution. So you can see it's called Business Approval Management. So when you open the app, it basically has the first sitemap where it basically talks about it gives you a window at the page where you can see the current approvals, active approvals, and where the approval is pending, and those kind of stuff, right? And you can see the one that we submitted. I'm from future. I'm right now it's 28th of March and afternoon. So that's why it shows that time. And you can see it's still submitted, it's running. And once if I can open this as well as an approval, and the email has come through, I can see that already. So the email has come through to me, the first level of approval. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say approve. And then now it goes to the second level of approval. Meanwhile, I'll go back to the again, walking through the model-driven app. So yeah, this homepage pretty much shows you the approvals and the current status. And then you have the other stuffs where pretty much this is the main one where we spend creating the approvals kit. And this is the approval that I have. And these are the child components of that main processes. It's a parent record and all this a child record. Pretty much all of them are stored as under the table and in the database, and then it is used. So let me wait for that second email to come through, and I'll show you what happens behind the scene. This is old ones. So it is going to come through to Alan, but in the approvals kit, if I open this, so this is how we basically play with the approvals kit. So it uses the same designer as Power Automate. Since I click that and use that, process designer, it's going to open that in the process designer. If I just open it as a record, it opens as a normal record, and you'll see the variables and the stages and nodes under that approval process, which you'll see through. See what are those things means actually. So now the approvals came. So if I go to Alan, I can see the approvals come through. So again, approvals come through to Alan. The reason I emphasize on this name is I'll come to that shortly. So I'm just going to approve Alan as well. That's all. So Alan has approved it. Now pretty much the scenario is done. So now if I go to what happens behind the scene and how it is configured, and let's focus on that, which is the key. So this is the approval process. Yeah. So I have created approval process. I'll show you how to create a new one anyways. So how do I edit these processes? I click on the process designer, which is going to bring the same interface as Power Automate interface, the new interface. And you can see I have two stages. So it's called stage, and I can add more stages based on the previous stage branches, nodes. So in the first stage, you can see it's just, if I edit this, it's just the name. And then there's no condition I created for this one because first stage cannot have a condition. I just start and then you have a condition. And inside the stage, I have a node. I created a new node. So when I click this +1, basically shows up, a control like this, and I can name it. And then, basically I can say similar to what you see in the approvals, out of the box approvals connector, the same options. Whether you want everyone to approve or reject, or first one to just approve, or you have a custom response instead of the approve reject, you can have that as well. And then you should select the named system user, or for example, if I want to select someone, I can just search and it basically picks up. Or I can go for dynamic, which in that case, I can choose the manager of the initiator or the manager of the request data field. I'll talk about what is data field, or the manager of the last approver, or use the direct request data field. Okay. So I can add multiple options as well. So for example, I can add Alicia, and I can go for dynamic and add manager of the initiator. So whoever is initiating, and if their manager basically gets an approval as well. Okay, but I'm not going to add it now. I'm just going to show this interface. So I'll go back to what I have added already. So you can see I just selected the name, and then I chose approve, reject, everyone must approve. And then from there, I have the manager of the initiator, which is pretty much myself actually. I can actually take it back. I just leave it, as a named user. So let me just leave it as it is. And then after that, I can add more node, or I can add more stage. So in this case, what I did is I added one more stage. So if I go and edit this stage, so when you add a stage, it basically asks for name, description, and then if you want to add any condition or not. If you say no, it just adds without a condition. If I say yes, it basically asks for two options, whether you can use if else or switch statement. I chose if else, and the source data, I chose request data. Okay, or you can choose previous nodes outcome, which is pretty much the data that comes from the previous stage. I chose request data, and then I chose two variables here. So how does this variable comes in? So when you create the process, you can basically go and create a variable here. So I created two variables. One name of type text, other one is price of type number. So those variables I will be able to access in the stage or node of my process. So I have, once I get the name and price, I can choose it and I can choose the operator. And here I'm just going for a static value, or you can have again request data. The kind of request data is basically an object or variable you keep passing between the processes. So I chose static data and I chose 4. So I'm saying the price, if the price is greater than or equal to 400, that's the if condition for this one. If that is true, then I add one more node here, and that node I basically send it to the next level of approval. So I give the name, I can give description if I want, and I basically chose the default option that comes out of the approval connector, which is in this case I chose everyone must approve, and I chose Alicia as the approver. Yeah, but if you noticed, the approval was not sent to Alicia. So let me open. This is Alicia's mailbox. Approvals, you can see that this tree didn't basically come to her, right? And she didn't get it. The person who got it was basically Alan Steiner. So he just got it. But in the flow, we just saw that the approval is sent to Alicia. The reason it didn't go to Alicia, rather it went to Alan Steiner, was because I have a delegation rule here that basically says, either none or timeout or out of office or timeout or out of office. So I chose timeout or out of office. So what does that mean? Is let's go one by one. Let's just if for out of office, it basically says if Alicia is out of office, then send it to the delegated person. So delegated person, where does it pick from? Is from Alicia's work profile. So to do that, I'll go to this. I'll just go to here approvers, and in the approvers, if I open Alicia, who is one of the approver, and you can see I can basically choose the delegate. So I chose Alan Steiner as Alicia's delegated person when Alicia is not available, and I chose that Alicia is out of office. So it's because she's marked as out of office, and a delegated person is Alan Steiner, and that's the same reason the approval was sent to Alan Steiner. Now, the question probably you might ask is why I need to set the approval out of office here in this app when the person already has out of office in their Outlook or in their Office 365 profile. So at the moment, there is no integration between the Outlook, Office 365 or M365 to this approvals kit, but the team, that's the feedback, that's the common feedback that's been given, and the team is looking forward to get that, further releases. So, but for now, the out of office and the work hours should be pretty much configured in this against these entities, against these tables and records, so that it basically the approvals kit respects to that. Yeah, but it will change hopefully. And this is out of office, yes or no. And if you want to set to work hours, that's also possible. So if I go and see Alicia's work profile, you can see Alicia's profile. I just named it Alicia profile. In the holiday calendar, I just chose upcoming Easter holidays. And I also chose her work hours. Pretty much she works on the 3 days in the week and 3 days in the weekend and something like that. So if out of office is not marked as yes, still Alicia wouldn't be getting the email. Alan would be getting the email because as per her work profile, she doesn't work on Thursday and Friday, and it's Thursday already here in Auckland. And it will be sent to Alan anyways. Yeah, so that's where this thing is connected. So oops, whatever. That's where this is connected. So when I say out of office, and then it respects out of office. If I say timeout, it respects timeout, which is basically your work profile, like holidays and personal working hours. If I send both, it basically respects both. Yeah. And also there's a timeout setting here, which means during timeout, we can actually make it delayed as well. So if Alicia is not working for 2 days, next 2 days, do you want to wait for the 2 days? If someone is up sent to then approval sent to someone, you really want to give some time to them and then go for the delegate person, then you can basically use this option. So if I choose just one and then I just choose business days, it's basically wait for that particular person, which means in this case, it will wait with Alicia. So if I just use this, it will just wait with Alicia for 1 day. If Alicia hasn't responded in 1 day, 1 business day, then it will go to the delegated person of Alicia. So these kind of nice complex rules has been built in as part of the approvals kit. Otherwise, imagine you would be required to know. That's what we are doing, to store this data in the table and then have a timer triggered Power Automate running on these things and the date time, and then check the current date time, and we keep triggering on those stuff. All this kind of stuff we were doing previously, which is pretty much done by the PowerCat team itself, and it's available for us to use. So that's where this is where the overall usage of approvals kit basically comes into the picture. So far, so good. Any questions? Happy to take, otherwise I can just proceed.
So Jiva, is there a cost for this approval kit?
No, so it's free. But to use approval kit, you need premium license because it uses Dataverse. So if you're already using Dataverse in your Power with your Power Automate or Power Platform, then it's free.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So you said this is in public preview, right? Is there any GA date?
Not yet. I can get that. Let me check with the team. I'll make note of it, and I'll pass it to you guys, one of you guys, once I get that. But not yet.
Can you show the history where it stores?
Yeah. The history of the approvals kit?
Yeah.
I'll show that. So far, so good. And once you do this, so what you do is you save it and then you publish it. Okay. So when you publish it, what happens is it basically preserves the history. So if I open a version, you can see a bunch of versions there. Okay. So you can see the very first version I created all the way to some versions I have, all the changes I have. So for some reason, the recent version is screwed up, it has bugs, and we want to roll back to previous version. We can always go and activate any of the previous version, and then that version we should be able to refer to the Power Automate. So that's the versioning that comes natively with this kit. So if I show you how do I use this once I created this, is I just go to the Power Automate. So I just created a sample Power Automate, plain simple. Basically, whenever a record is added or modified or deleted basically added in the table called machine orders, which is what whenever you replace the order from our sample app we saw in the very beginning of the session, it adds a record to that table, and then whenever record is added to that table, this is the trigger we have, and then it's part of the next one. So if I go and add an action, so you should see that in the custom. So there is the approval kit. Once you add that, you'll see that in the custom kit. And once you add that, you will be able to choose the version that is published or activated now. So you can see the version is version 7. So if I go here, that's the active version. So if I activate something else and refresh my Power Automate, you should be able to choose that active version. Yeah. And the variable and the name, and you can see the two variables there basically, name, and then the price, and then the requested by, right? So if you remember in our Power Automate approvals kit, we basically added two variables, name and price. Requested by is out of the box, so that's fine. And we got name and price. So that's what I'm passing to this kit. And that's what the kit is basically receiving the value into. And then that's what it is using in this node to validate, oops, not here, in this node to basically validate and then, use it. So that's the overall how do you create it and how do you hook up to the Power Automate and how do you run it. Now let's see how it works behind the scene before we get into setup. So if I open the process that's been used now, so to start with, sorry, if you want to start with, you basically go and create new process designer and you can basically build it and then you can have it inactive and then you can activate it once it's ready. But this is how you basically start it. You can give the name. It's going to look pretty much similar to Power Automate. You just give the name. You add the stage. You add the node. Probably the first one I want to approve. I want to say first level approver, default approver. And then I can just choose maybe the default approver just myself, or I can just choose the manager of the approver as a default approver. And then basically save this. And I can add one more node here, which is second stage, and then condition which I was talking about. And basically you can, if there is no variable at the moment, so I need to go and create the variable. Oops. Just say price, the same stuff, or you can basically choose any of them. So I'm just going with the number, and then or you can just choose date as well, and then you can play around with that, right? So that's the idea. So basically, once you have that, you can basically choose the variables that you selected, and then you can play around with that, right? If it's greater than equals dynamic or static, you got the idea, and then you publish it, and then you basically choose the name. Okay. So now let me not save this one. It's in the draft, so that's fine. And then if I just go to this one, I'll just put. And then now, deactivate is different. This is just record activation, deactivation, but draft is, when I say draft, unless you publish, you won't be able to see it. So the previous one was not published anyways. So this one, which was the published one, which I have been using for the demo. So if I click on it and open the process designer, it will open in the process designer, like how we want to configure it. And in fact, you can also take a look at the previous designer before this. This is the previous designer. And this is the new designer. And if I don't open this as a designer, rather if I open it as a record, you can see how it is working behind the scene. So the data variables is captured in a separate table called application data. And it's look up to this particular process and then what data type it is. And then if I go to the stages and nodes, you can see the two stages. Now you'll be able to relate it to what it is. So the first stage was self-approval. Second stage was named as manager approval. And then which process lookup it belongs to and what is the order. So the first one was self, second one was manager. And then the first condition has no condition, second has if else condition. And the source of that was request data type. And then the source was price. And the operation was whatever we chose. It's all stored pretty much in the record, right? It's just basically it's basically the plain field data that we just show. That's used by the process designer. When you open the process designer, it uses these records internally. And then in the nodes, so you can see inside the self-approval node, there's just approval, there's nothing. And then inside the manager approval stage, we had one node basically to check, if it's the name was this one, and then we just basically chose the manager approval, and then we chose the status manager approval. We chose approval, everyone must approve, and we chose delegation rule and the delegation rule timeout, and all those things pretty much is captured in the record pretty much. Okay, and you can see the approver. The approver was Alicia Thomber, but her delegate was Alan Steiner, which basically came from the Alicia's work profile. We didn't configure it here in the approvals, but rather it came from Alicia's work profile, if you remember what we did in the work profile. And you can see our profile name as well. So it's all pretty much all the reference data, transaction data that's stored against this one. And we can see what version is running. It's running 7 and as such. And then, yeah, so that's how it works behind the scene. Let me trigger one more and see. I'll show you how the status transition in terms of records behind the scene. Let's go this, and then again submitting 500 and $400 above dollars one, which means it's going to go for 2 level of approvals. So once I submit the approvals from the Power Automate standpoint, you should be aware of that. And for each approval, you're not going to see the run history because it's just one trigger. So it's going to just have one trigger. Submitted, right? It should be running now. Yeah, so that's the trigger of the Power Automate. And then once that is triggered in the records, so what you can do is once you go to the approval center, which is the home page, you will be able to see what we just triggered. And that should show up here. Or I can just go to the workflows and I can just have the view. It hasn't triggered yet. Yeah, there you go. And once I triggered, I can just monitor it, what is happening. So you can see in the stages of that particular workflow instance. You can see right now it is in the stage 1 self-approval stage. And right now there is no emails has been triggered. It's just gonna basically behind the scene, it creates a record in this node instance table. And then that will basically trigger, there you go. It will fire up another Power Automate to basically trigger an email to the first level of approval. So, which means there should be an email receiving shortly to the same user. And then once this guy approves it, what happens is it basically adds one more row and adds one more row here. And this one gets completed, the other one gets running. So that's how it basically tracks behind the scene. And then, does the triggers internally. This is what we would have done if we had done the custom implementation as well, very similar. But of course, it's from the best minds from Microsoft, so they've done it much better with appropriate stages and monitoring all those stuffs. So now, with that, since considering the time, there you go. So I got the approval, and if I go to the stage, it's running right. And if I go and approve this, you can see what's going to happen here. It will basically changes to complete and then creates one more record here. So this is completed. This is completed. And then now it's going to add one more row for the second level of approval, and it starts, it happens. So that's what it is. So let's go back to the setup now. Yeah. So the one thing that we need to make note of it is before we import the approvals kit from the app source, we need to have this Microsoft Flow Approvals solution. So if you're already using Power Automate with approvals in your Power Automate, this will be already added to your solution in the environment. You can see that. If not, you're starting with this, either you can just create a sample flow, just add the approval connector and then just delete it. And then this will be added automatically, or there is a PowerShell script basically to import this to solution. And once you have that, you need to create creator kit from the app source as well. So creator kit is again from the PowerCat team, and that basically is used by the approvals kit as the solution. So once you add the creator kit from app source, these 3 solutions will be imported, or you can import these 3 one by one as well. I recommend just go to the app source and then import this creator kit. And once that is done, then finally from the app source, you basically, I don't think there's an app source, the business approval kit is available in app source. I think it's zip solution that's available in the Microsoft doc, and we can download it and import it, the business approval kit. Once it is imported, because this is all going to take like a few minutes to an hour for all this setup, so that's why I didn't have them. I already configured it for you. So if I go now, I just received an email. So if you see this, you can see the second level stage has been running now, and second level is running. Once I approve it, it will also get completed. So just coming back to that. Okay, so coming back to setup. So once this approval, business approval kit solution has been imported, so what we have to do is, you can see all the components that comes as part of that. So it has 29 tables behind the scene to manage all those. This is what some of them we just saw in the view, like the stage and node and all those stuffs. But eventually it uses tons of tables around that, 29 tables. And then you got the model-driven app, which we've been using, business approval app, and then the cloud flows. So all these flows basically listens to what is happening on the record, and then it basically triggers and then updates all those stuff, right? That's what this run you have here. There's one thing that we need to do from our side. After we import the solution, we need to configure the custom connector. That's a prerequisite. So the custom connector, to configure it is standard app registration process. So we have to register an app in our tenant, Azure tenant, and then we need to give permission to Dynamics 365. And then once you have that, just get the app ID and secret and key, and then pretty much you basically configure, update this client with the client ID and secret, and then you close this. That's all. So we just need to configure this connector along with the app registration that we create. And once we have this, well and good, that's all. We are good to just go ahead and build the approvals as I just showed you now with the model-driven app, and then refer that approvals in the for automate and start using it. So that's the overall 360 view of, like how do we configure it and how do we use it. So I know it can be annoying in configuration of this if you are having a like your team and you want to configure this for your team, you have to do one by one. Excuse me. Especially when you are working on a workshop or something where you want to configure it for all of them. So what Microsoft PowerCat team is working on it is to basically they are building up. They have built few PowerShell scripts, which we can actually pull it from the GitHub and run it, and basically does all this prerequisite setup, which I was just talking to you, just walk through previously, like all this approvals, and then creator kit and business approval kit. All these things will be done by the PowerShell internally. So I'll just show you how that is done, but I haven't done it. I know that there's a feature to do that. It's available in the GitHub. So we just saw the demo and setup. And before I get into that, configuration for others, let's just focus on how we can learn and what are the materials available. So I'm going to just share them in the chat right away. But we basically have learn module itself created for this one, and that has some basic setup. And there's also Microsoft Doc, which basically run through stage by stage of what I just showed you now. So it's no brainer. You can go and follow that step by step, and you should be able to set up this in probably an hour or two. And this is what I was talking about, the instructor module, the one that has been there. So we can also use that to, if you're an instructor or moderator, and if you want to run it within your company or in a workshop, you can use the materials from there as well. So with that, yeah, these are the links I'm going to share to you. And from the pipeline standpoint, so I think the team is working on to copy and save the approvals. Like right now, it's just a record, so there's no copy and save as. Basically you can't do that, right? You have to create that designer again. You have to create a new process from the beginning again. So team is working on copy and save as feature where you can basically save the designer, the process, approval process, and then you can tweak the process as required. and then also making the approval automation kit into as a certified connector, and then notifying the requester whenever there's a change like approval or rejection. Right now, the requester doesn't have any insight, and that's something team is working on. And also this, if I'm not wrong, yeah. So I think the delegation to group AAD level is something I think, which is basically I was talking about on the Office 365 integration. One of them is that, and then schedule reminder, and if escalation, if there's no response, and approval history when making approval in progress. This one I'm not sure. I need to check what is this one. But then bulk approval and approval decline is another feature that team is working on. All this is gonna be, there's no timeline at the time I'm aware of, but definitely the team is working on it to get this added to the approvals kit. And that's all from my side. And before I sign up, let me just get this link, and then I'll also get the manager, the instructor one. Just a moment. Let's see that as well shortly, quickly. So I'm just dropping this in the chat. Don't forget the font size. But yeah, these are the links. So if I just open one of this. So that's the GitHub repository that Grant has put, who is the from PowerCat team, who basically drive this one. And you can see it has all the resources and solutions, all those things available there. And the instruction when I was talking about should be here as well. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So if you are trying to set up it's for the team, so you need to have an environment, and then you need to have the licenses first. And then what you can do is you basically, it basically is given what to do step by step. You basically have the environment, you have the licenses, and then you, for the setup and the, for the setup of the solutions, you basically don't need to do one by one. You basically have the PowerShell scripts that you will run on your Azure PowerShell command, and then it basically generates all this solution, install all the solution and setup for you. So I have not done this personally, but I know that there is an option for us to do that as well when we are driving this for within an organization or your user group. Yeah, so with that, I'll shut up and then I'll just stop sharing my screen as well. Okay, I'll wait for the questions before I stop sharing probably.
Yeah, Jiva, great presentation, great demo. I have a couple of questions. The number one, right? I know you are refreshing the two subgrades to show us the status from running to completed. You remember that? To show us live in action. Is that the same visual the processor also show us with a green tick mark or something where the pipeline is running, which stage it is, or it's not?
No, not at the moment. Similar to Power Automate, they don't have a run history in the process designer. But I know, if I'm not wrong, there is a Power BI or something that team is working on it to basically show that progress. But that's actually good feedback. I can also check this with Grant. When is this planned run pipeline? Because the basic stuff similar to your Power Automate, where the stage is in currently as such, right?
Yeah, which branch it took, and which process. Yep, that's one thing. Yeah, the second question is actually you showed, right, when you are designing a Power Automate, you are choosing the version 7 because there are 7 versions, right? And let's say we are already live with V7 and we are making a change V8, V9. Should we do another deployment with the Power Automate to make the version change, or it will pick it up the latest version automatically?
You would need to do the Power deployment because in your target environment, still you will not have a better one either ways. You will need a deployment of the Power Automate. So let me try that. Actually, it's a common use case and it's an interesting one that you said now. Let me just do that. Yeah, those are like basic stuffs that we would face in real time, which I agree. And yeah, let's try this. Meanwhile, is there any other question from you or anyone? When I tried previously, it basically picked up automatically. So if I go to version 5, activate this, it's active. It's good. So refresh this one. Still version 5 right now. I really pick the latest one. That's active. I'm good. Hang on, I think I have to publish it once I choose it. Or not. No, I don't think it's required to publish because it's already published. Let me open this flow again. Interesting. It's not updated yet. Maybe let me publish it and see.
Yeah, publish it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't save this. My bad. I didn't save the process. Because it's already published version. That's why I'm not comfortable with no point publishing again. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Okay, maybe it's a bug, right? Let's do one thing. Let me add a new one and see. It's the same. Maybe I think I need to publish it. It's weird though. This is going to make a version 8, which I don't want actually. Ideally, it should pick it from the version that I choose. I tried it like in one of the demo, it worked actually. I don't know why it's not picking up the previous version. Because now it's version 8. There's no point. I don't want version 8. I want version 5.
Right. Yeah, but this
That's
version
really
control is impressive. Let's see how it rolls out.
Yeah, I did it. I'm pretty sure I did change to different version and then it was working. It's just not working now. Maybe I missed something. Yeah. So any other questions? But yeah, at the yeah, state status and then some the even if let's say it updates to the Power Automate automatically, still you need to deploy the Power Automate, right? Because your target environment still will have your old Power Automate version.
Yeah, that's my guess as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're updating in this environment, it's good, it's updated automatically. It's not, you don't need to choose anything, that's fine. But still, to take it back to the next environment, if I just do a data migration of the approvals kit, will that be sufficient or do I need a Power Automate deployment as well? So that's the question, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Is it not solution aware? So you can add it to a solution.
This is data, right? Pretty much it's a data migration. So all of these things are stored as part of the data. So if, as far as this data is not moved to the target environment, it won't
when I create a Power Automate flow, I just add the flow to the solution, right? It's not, there's no data there.
No, yeah, there are two parts. You know? There are two parts here. This is like portal. You see, the data is being stored in Dataverse. Yeah. All the branch, nodes, everything is being stored as a configuration table. Power Automate is one part. All the other pieces, right? The design and development is being stored. The metadata is being stored in a table.
The tables.
Yeah, not solution component.
So you have to extract the data and move it.
Yeah, like configuration migration utility.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. It is part of the pipeline or config migration, standard data migration.
Got it.
This is awesome. I don't have any
Awesome,
questions.
yeah,
Thank you.
cool
Yeah.
stuff. Okay,
Yep.
thank you. If there are no more questions, we can close the call. It's almost 8 o'clock Eastern time.
Nice. Hope that was helpful. And again, thanks everyone for the opportunity. Let me know if there is any feedback, any questions. Like Arun and Meher got like 2-3 questions, which is quite common. I'd love to get that answers from the team for that.
Yeah. No, thank you, Jiva. Yeah,
Thank you,
it was good.
Jiva. It's great presentation. This is they really did a nice job on this, and you did an excellent job presenting to us. So thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks, everyone. And have a happy Easter long weekend.
Yeah.
We still got one more day, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we just have a couple closing slides here, so we'll just go through those real quick. Let me get this going here.
Not a long weekend for everybody. Friday we have to work. Good Friday work.
Ah. For people.
All right, this should be up now, right? See it there, Mahir?
Yes.
Okay. So we just want to let everyone know about our group, our Microsoft Business Applications user group. We have the information here on the screen. We have the QR code to get the link. Just some additional links that we wanted to share. 2024 release of Wave 1 is, has it been released yet, Mahir? Or Arun?
Yeah, it's 1st of April is the release date. So next week it will be released. Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's on its way. Build is coming up in May. I know that. And then just to let you know, we're planning probably have another event in late April. So just wanted to let you know that. We're working on our scheduling. We know everyone's busy, and we try to do our best to get good content when we have a good topic.
Okay.
And we thank you, Jiva. This was an excellent presentation. So glad we got the recording. Hopefully other people will get to see it too.
Right.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye, Jiva.
Thank you. Bye-bye.